Hi, this is The Flower of Freedom by Deborah J. Reeves. All the rights to this original book and to my presentation of it are reserved. We're on chapter 52, so I invite you to take your seat. I invite you to relax in a safe and secure environment and relax for just a few minutes. Chapter 52, February Thaw. The end of January and the beginning of February are the deepest, darkest days of winter in Montreal. It's so cold on some days that people joked that when they breathe out, they have to step over their own icicles on the pavement. Marie's break did not coincide with Bertie's school schedule, but Bertie's grades were good, and his teachers were so fond of him that he was permitted to fly out at the end of February for a week because he promised to catch up on all of the classwork. They knew that he would, and they started piling it on 2 weeks before he even left for the airport. Mama and Papa drove him to the airport, and they did not seem as distressed as they previously had when they were seeing one of their kids off. They knew how happy Bertie was to be going. Oscar had been taking them skiing at Mont Tremblant since they were 6 years old, and they were both excellent skiers. To ski in Switzerland was a dream come true. They did, however, burden Bertie with carrying on a full bag of baked goods. Mama would not accept any excuse. She said that he would need them for his friends in his room, and that half were for Marie. Bertie knew that he would never prevail against his mother on the topic of feeding people, so he gave in and he carried the bag gingerly. The flight was fine and the takeoff and landing were smooth. Bertie felt like he was becoming an old hand at transatlantic flights. When he landed in Zurich, Philippe was there, waiting to collect him. Philippe, Marie, Michaud, and Joseph had flown in from Paris to Zurich, and they landed at 3 p.m. yesterday. From the airport, they shared a cab to the railway station, which took them to Meuren via Interlaken. After the 2-hour ride, they took a cable car, which was just off the platform. It ground its way up to the ski resort. Bertie had told Philippe that there was no need to come to the airport, but Philippe was having none of it. He told Bertie that he was coming, and that was final. When Bertie got off the flight the next morning and got through customs with his luggage, Philippe was standing there grinning. It took barely a minute for him to wave an envelope under Bertie's nose. "What the heck is that?" said Bertie, taking a step back. "Can't you guess?" teased Philippe. "No," said Bertie, tiring of the game. "A clue, then. It was sent from Montreal." "You got in, Philippe? Are you really coming to McGill?" Philippe nodded, and the two young men hugged with joy. They laughed and sparkled. They talked about the future. Bertie told Philippe about the restaurants and the hockey games and the fun that they would most certainly have. Philippe asked nervous questions about the cold and the snow and getting to classes. They did not notice the brown-haired man who had gotten off the flight from Brazil, who passed by them in the lobby watching them. Philippe grabbed the luggage, and Bertie told him that he had to guard the hand luggage with his own life because it was filled with his mother's baking, and most of it was destined for Marie. When he grinned, they both dug through the carry-on on his mother's famous oatmeal cookies. Once they each had 4 cookies in their hands, they zipped it back up and headed out to the cab station in front of the airport. Philippe led Bertie through the steps to Meuren. On the train ride, Philippe filled him in on all the others. Marie, he said, thought Bertie was arriving tomorrow, and she was upset that the scheduling had not been done better. Philippe had told her that Bertie had trouble getting so many days off of his classes, and this was the best they could do. Then she was calmer, and she told him that she would be traveling to meet Bertie at the airport the next day. As they relaxed into their train seats, Neither of them noticed the brown-haired man, who sat 3 rows behind them, trying to overhear their conversation. They did not notice when the man entered the same cable car either. At the end of the cable run, they walked to the hotel. There were chalets on the hillside, and there were shops with ski rentals, a small supermarket, and a clock shop on the main street. When they got into the hotel, the man behind the desk, check-in counter, took all of Bertie's information, and then he handed him a key to his room. Philippe followed him up, saying that he was right next door. When Bertie unlocked the door to his room, he found the room was already occupied, and someone's luggage was on one of the 2 beds. Bewildered, he turned to Philippe and he said, "There's been a mistake." Philippe grinned and said, "Nope, no mistake. I spoke to your uncle Aki, and he said that I could bunk with you. After my parents, he was the first person I told about getting into McGill. We decided that you and I would have practice session as roommates. If it turns out that I can't stand you, I can still back out of going across the Atlantic to school." Philippe laughed aloud. "You told me all I had to do was give you half for the room for your spending money." He finished, handing over a wad of cash. "Huh," said Bertie, accepting the cash. "I see you got first dibs on the beds." And then he grinned and said, "Where are Michaud and Joseph?" "Next door," said Philippe, and he moved to the other side of his bed and knocked on the wall. In a moment there was a knock on the door of the room, and Philippe rushed to admit Michaud and Joseph, who rushed in and tackled Bertie. "Okay, you thug," said Bertie. "Where's my sister?" "She's 1 floor down, and she has the most beautiful roommate in the world." "I'm in love," declared Michaud. "You're always in love," groaned Joseph. That's the end of chapter 52. The next chapter is 53, The Brown-Haired Man. As always, I'm delighted that you were here. Please come back for chapter 53. Your friend Deb.